Have you ever felt like you needed to do something purely because how others would view it? I know I have, and even now sometimes do, though I try to remind myself constantly to be better. The reality is, we human beings are painfully simple creatures who, for a variety of reasons, feel the need to impress others. In fact, feel the need sometimes is not putting it strongly enough. This is an obsession for some people. The rise of social media is most certainly only making it worse, but this is fundamentally part of our human nature, and it's even something we see in more primitive creatures, like football fans.
What began as a traditional soccer riot has escalated into a citywide orgy of destruction. Reacting swiftly, Mayor Quimby has declared mob rule. So for the next several years, it's every family for itself.
So for the next 10 minutes, we're delving deep into a topic that has intrigued philosophers, psychologists, and everyday individuals for centuries: our innate desire to impress others. Why do we seek validation from those around us? What drives this human obsession? And importantly for this channel's purpose, how does this affect our financial well-being, wealth accumulation, and financial future? To understand this compulsion, we first need to look back to our evolutionary roots. In early human societies, impressing the group meant survival. It ensured access to resources, protection, and opportunities for procreation. This last point remains true today as well.
Always seems to come back to that, doesn't it?
While I don't agree with the proposition in absolute terms, it is pretty clear that certain industries do better than they otherwise would because of the need to impress others, including the opposite sex.
Shots! We're all shocked.
I'm not saying people wear makeup or nice clothes or drive nice cars purely to impress others, but it's also certainly part of it.
He's got a $50,000 sports car.
So fast forward to today, and we still carry these ancient instincts. We've evolved, sure, but monkey brain remains, and our drive to impress people remains something that's deeply ingrained into our behaviours and social structures. Social validation is quickly becoming the currency of the digital age. The more likes, shares, and followers we have, the more successful sometimes we can feel. It triggers a release of dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter, reinforcing that behaviour. As a 90s kid, I was definitely exposed to this more than earlier generations, but the youth of today have grown up far more immersed in this sort of culture from day one.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
It's not inherently negative, but it becomes problematic when it defines our self-worth. We need to remember that external validation should complement, not replace, our internal sense of self-worth. If anything, you really want very little external validation. And I say very little because I'm not proposing you entirely disregard what others think, lest you become a modern-day Diogenes.
I have done some very bad things of which I am not proud.
Comparison is a double-edged sword. It can motivate us to achieve more, but it often leads to unnecessary stress and feelings of inadequacy. We're constantly bombarded with carefully curated images and stories which can distort our perception of reality. This is especially true because the internet and people's online presence is really all just smoke and mirrors. Near everyone on here is lying or often misleading.
It's a fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
People will put up content showing how great their holiday is, or how they're at the gym working out and being healthy, but they're far less likely to capture and publicise the reality of their life, let alone the downsides of it. Every idiot who takes out finance for a Mercedes will only ever tell you about the Mercedes. They're never as forthcoming about the fact they paid a massive interest premium just so they can drive a vehicle they couldn't otherwise afford.
That's a cold hard fact.
The key is to use comparison as a tool for growth, rather than a measure of our value. To this end, comparisons with yourself, your own goals, and reasonably objective measures are far wiser, healthier, and more accurate than comparisons with others. Focusing on earning more than you are now, investing more than you are now, and monitoring your progression towards your calculated goals is infinitely better for you than engaging in some warped game of keeping up with the Joneses. Embracing our true selves, flaws and all, is a powerful counterbalance to the need for constantly impressing. When we're authentic, we connect on a deeper level with others, we foster genuine relationships, and we're just going to feel more legitimate in our actions. Subconsciously, we won't be thinking, I'm a fraud.
Oh yeah, that's a relief.
This of course shouldn't be taken as an absolute either though. You shouldn't be so indifferent to what people think that you forego the opportunity for growth and self-improvement because you adopt a take me as I am attitude. This would be stupid. As a thought experiment, apply this to its logical conclusion. Let's say you like investing and you put 100% of your money into one stock. Now some people might tell you to consider diversifying or put just a little into broad index funds as a hedge, but no, you adopt this as a I am who I am and this is how I invest stance, and you do not consider these views of others. Well, of course, you could do exceptionally well. If this was you in 2015 buying $100,000 worth of shares in Tesla, you're a new age Warren Buffett who is probably thinking about a really early retirement. You'd have done far better than the S&P 500, though it did more than double that period to be fair, and that's not bad at all. But of course, that's the hindsight bias of picking a winner, something that you're statistically unlikely to do. After all, if you had gone all in on some established names in 2015 like Bed Bath & Beyond, Toys R Us or JCPenney, or maybe you swung for the fences of new technology bets like FTX, BlockFi, Celsius, you would have lost everything. It is only wise to stick to your convictions and be a contrarian in the face of opposing opinion when you're right. If everyone is telling you that you're wrong, it's always worth thinking carefully to ensure you are not, and not simply dismissing the counter-narrative because this is how you're doing this. So it is a fine line. It takes courage to be vulnerable, but the rewards are immeasurable. It's crucial to recognize when our need for external validation becomes a limiting factor. By cultivating self-awareness and practicing self-compassion, we can break free from that cycle. Remember, it's okay to seek validation, but it shouldn't define your sense of self-worth. It is also important to consider where you're seeking validation. Now, I do care deeply what my wife thinks of me. I have some friends whose opinions I'd seek out more than others, or more accurately, there are some friends I'd accept advice on certain things and others that I would not. I have friends who I'd listen to if they thought I was investing in the wrong company, and then there are others that I would listen to, politely smile and nod, and probably take none of it at face value. If you're seeking the validation of the world at large, you're both doomed and misguided. No one is loved by all. If you seek the validation from the common man, you're subjecting yourself to the views of the average person, and that's unwise. Half the world struggles to be average. So there you have it, folks. Our human obsession with impressing others is deeply rooted in our evolutionary history and amplified by our modern social landscape. But by understanding these dynamics, we can navigate them more consciously. So what does this mean for us financially? It's simple. Don't buy into all the noise, ignore the smoke and mirrors, ignore all the target advertising. Don't buy into image and impressing others. Think long term, not short term. You want a Mercedes? Fair enough, they're objectively cool cars. But don't finance one. That's madness. Wait until you can buy it in cash, and don't buy it in cash until you're comfortable that other more important financial goals have already been met. If I had less than $1 million invested, I wouldn't be buying a Mercedes. It just wouldn't make sense. The opportunity cost just doesn't make sense. Likewise, finding a way to either save $300 on unnecessary expenses each week or finding a way to spend your time more wisely to earn more money, both more easily said than done of course, is going to allow you to invest enough over 30 years to make an extra couple of million in retirement. And when you adjust that for inflation to represent present value, that's over $1 million. That alone would be enough for you to receive thousands of dollars a month in dividends for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live, without ever doing anything at all, and without ever touching your $2 million principal, which of course will continue to grow. If you follow the 4% rule, which I don't advocate, but as a practical necessity, it makes sense for a lot of people, that $2 million is enough for you to live off for over 30 years. And remember, as inflation does what inflation does, that $300 a week investment through a combination of savings and increased earnings only becomes easier to achieve, assuming you're increasing your economic productivity. While it would be an oversimplification to say that an easier way to save more money is to stop trying to impress people, there is definitely at least some truth in that statement that you should take to heart. So leave the Mercedes for another day. Settle for a reliable second-hand Toyota. That single decision would save you tens of thousands of dollars. The average US car payment for a new vehicle is over $700 a month. That's half your monthly savings met simply by just not buying a new car beyond your financial means. Be smart, guys. Don't let modern media and social expectations and the views of others manipulate your finances. Follow the math, not the crowd. The crowd is dumb. The math is solid. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys, and give this video a thumbs up if you found it insightful. And as always, let's continue this conversation in the comment section below. Until next time, stay curious, stay authentic.